Hello and welcome to another episode of Coffee Talk with Encore. Today we're going to be talking about embracing your profession. So let's take a moment and think back to when each of us decided to go into therapy as our chosen profession. Let's think about the classes in school and how they really laid that foundation for our career. Let's also think about how our profession is unique and really remember our profession's roots and how that uniqueness can translate into discipline-specific approaches and interventions.
I love that you talk about roots because when we look at the three professions, while there is some overlap, if you go back to the roots of the profession and how they were created and how they came about, they're very, very different. And our treatments for our patients should be very different when we look at it. And we talk all the time about practicing at the top of our profession, but doing that goes back to that root cause analysis and diving into the roots of our profession. And so it's interesting to talk about, that top of the profession really comes from those roots of our profession and diving into the root cause analysis for our patients, figuring out what's causing what we're seeing, and then diving into the research so that we can pick that best treatment approach for our patient based on the research that's out there so that we're doing those best treatments for our patient. And that's how we practice at the top of our profession.
Absolutely. And one way that we can make sure that we're providing those best possible interventions for our patients is utilize our professional organizations. So whether it's ASHA, APTA, AOTA, those organizations are there to, provide support to us as clinicians. And they can help us, gain more knowledge, whether it's a CEU event that they're putting on themselves, or whether it's the resources that we're tapping into. So even if you are a PT or an OT and you are kind of tapping into their Choose Wisely campaign, I think that really helps clinicians focus their treatment plans to practice at the top of their license and give that patient-centered care that is backed up by, professional resources and those evidence-based practices. So even just a quick Google search, you can find numerous articles, resources, and all of these things, even if you're not a member of the APTA, AOTA, or ASHA. So just making sure that you are kind of tapping into whatever professional organization you are paying dues to, make sure that you actually utilize those resources so you get your money's worth.
Absolutely. Well, in addition to using our state and our national associations, there are a ton of great resources available to us on the internet. Some of those sites, they do charge for their materials, but there are so many sites out there that provide information to us for free. And so with that said, I really want to share some of my favorite sites that I just love going into. It's free. Free is good for everyone. And so I do want to share some of those sites with everyone today. And we will be sharing those sites here on this video so that everyone can see what those sites are, the web addresses and whatnot. So first of all, being Shirley Ryan Ability Lab, great place to find objective tests and measures. Certainly there are some that are, paid resources, but the majority of the tests and measures on there are free. So fantastic place to go. The American Heart Association, great resources on cardiovascular disease. The National Institute on Aging, the NIA, fantastic resources that they have created specifically for health professionals to use and to share with their patients. This site also has resources on things like improving communication and healthy aging and Alzheimer's and assessing cognitive impairment. So I could go on and on and on. Great resource for sure. Now, the CDC has a really nice program for falls and balance prevention, and that's called the STEADY program. Wonderful materials, not only for clinicians, but for patients too. So a lot of things that clinicians can save to their computers, things that they can print out and share with others. So fantastic resources. This next site that I wanted to share is called Silverts. It's SILVERTS, and it's something newer that I came across recently. And what it is, it's an online store that sells a variety of adaptive clothing for men and women. So things like with Velcro and snaps and, easy to get on and off. And even if you're, in a wheelchair, pants that can go on and off, shirts that can go on and off. So really a great resource to look at there, especially for occupational therapists working with, finding clothing that work well for individuals with impairments. And then lastly, my favorite site of all, Pinterest. You can find everything on Pinterest. So if there's something that you're looking for as a clinician, whether it's something on cognition, whether it's orthotics, whether it's something on anything under the sun, you can find it on Pinterest.
Isn't that true? Pinterest is great. So many good resources. Another thing that we can do to embrace our profession is to advocate for it. There's always legislative issues that are present, and they affect us. They impact us as therapists. They impact our residents in the skilled nursing facilities and other settings. And so it's important that we make our voices heard. And so whether you choose to go about that through one of the professional organizations that Ashley was talking about, all of our state and national organizations do advocacy efforts. You can also go about it on your own. And if you have questions about how to go about those advocacy efforts on your own, we actually have a previous episode of Coffee Talk with Encore, episode 7. So you can refer back to that, and it gives very detailed information about how to get started with that process, because it can be a little bit intimidating, but as you'll learn during that coffee talk, it's actually much easier than you would think. So again, advocate for your profession, advocate for your patients, advocate for therapists. It's a good way to embrace your profession.
Absolutely. And as we've heard during today's coffee talk, there are endless ways in which clinicians can embrace their profession. And we just need to take a moment and really think back to our roots, think back to the root cause of our patient's condition, and to use our unique skills and our unique approaches to help them regain their independence and their confidence in participating in the everyday activities that they want to be a part of. But I'd like to thank everyone for joining us today for our discussion on embracing your profession. And we look forward to having you tune in again for our next episode of Coffee Talk with Encore.